Well, hello, everybody. My name is Paul Lewis. I'm the Director of Job Assistance with the People's Resource Center. I wanted to welcome you to the Job Assistance Orientation. If you're unfamiliar with the People's Resource Center, we serve DuPage County clients. We offer a variety of different services. So we have our food pantry, which is available at both our Wheaton and Westmont locations. We also have our social services program. We also offer a variety of empowerment services that are free to PRC clients. That includes our adult learning and literacy, our art studio, our closed closet, our computer training and access, and our job assistance services. So for today's orientation, we want to familiarize you with the PRC Job Assistance Program. We want to talk about what it's like for your job search, and we want to help you maximize your efforts. We want to introduce you to effective job search tools, exercises, and strategies. And we want to help you prepare to tell your story. And finally, we want you to leave this orientation and fill you with confidence so you kind of know what steps that you need to take. And we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to work with a job coach and a resume writer, as well as some of the other tools and resources we offer over in Job Assistance. So a successful job search requires a few different things. First off, organization. You need to know exactly what types of jobs you're going to be searching for and how to properly prepare for your job search. Goal setting, time management, information gathering. We want you to be, well-versed in the different companies that you're applying for. Self-assessment. We need you to be really honest with yourself and what your strengths and weaknesses are. Finally, we need you to do research and networking. So researching the different companies that you're interested in working for, as well as networking with people. So friends and family and coworkers, as well as other people that might be in a similar position that you're interested in. So we want to start by talking a little bit about organization. So when you're organizing and preparing for your job search, you want to have a separate space in your house set aside where you can keep all of your job search materials. So you want to get organized and equipped. You want to make sure that you have a notepad, a working pen, as well as a laptop, as well as just some different things that you can, keep notes on, whether those are sticky notes or anything that you can jot down, reminders, or anything that you might need to be successful in your job search. And we want you to track your progress. And what we mean by that is, searching for a job is a job, and it can be lengthy and time-consuming. And over the course of your job search, you're likely going to be applying for lots of different jobs. So in one day, you might apply for 4 or 5 jobs, or in 1 week, you might apply for 20, 25 different types of jobs. So a job application log is a good way for you to keep track of the jobs that you're applying for. And the reason it's good to keep track of the jobs that you're applying for is you don't want to get a phone call from somebody that is interested in setting up a phone screen with you, and all of a sudden you don't remember that job that you applied for. Because if you're applying for so many jobs, there's a good chance that you might not remember the job that you applied for, and you don't want to get caught off guard on that phone screen. So it's always a really good idea to keep track of the jobs that you applied for. A lot of times you'll have to create a lot of these jobs now use an applicant tracking system, which we'll talk about a little later. And you have to create a username and password for that. So this is a good opportunity for you to keep track of what your usernames are, your passwords. How did you apply for that job? Most jobs today are going to be applied for online. So did you apply through that job through Indeed? Did you apply through that job directly through the website? And then keep up any notes. If you did receive a call, if you didn't receive a call, or if there's any follow-up needed. So a job application log is something really good to have on hand as you're starting your job search. And you can keep track of that on your computer. You can keep a Word document, or if you want to use your notepad or some sticky notes that keeps track of the jobs that you apply for, whatever your organization style is, but this is something key to help you stay organized. And this is just an example of what a job application log looks like. And once you finish the orientation today, your job coach or the PRC jobs coordinator will send you a soft copy of this job application log if you want to use this. So the next step is goal setting and time management. So we talked about, looking for a job is a job. And it's a good idea to, just like any job, You want to establish daily and weekly objectives, set reasonable but measurable goals. So an example of setting a reasonable goal is maybe you want to apply for, if you're looking, maybe you want to say, I'm going to apply for jobs, 3 days out of the week, and I want to apply for 3 jobs a day. That's a reasonable goal. When you're applying for a job, you want to make sure that that's a process that you don't want to rush. Applying for a job is time consuming, depending on if you have to enter all that information online. It can take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour to apply for a job. If you need to update your cover letter or make some changes to your resume to fit the job description, that's time consuming, and that's not something you want to do 8 to 10 hours a day, because then you get burnt out. So it's good to set reasonable goals. Another example of that would be you might not want to apply for 15 jobs a day by rushing that. There's a lot of websites now where it's like a one-click apply, and you can just click, and it gives you a bunch of different jobs, and you can apply for 20 jobs in about 10 seconds. But that's not the correct way to apply for jobs. You really want to take the time to make sure that you're applying for jobs correctly, and that you're sending a personalized cover letter and a resume that fits the job description. So start small, build momentum, but like I said, you don't want to overdo it. And below is an example of a weekly action plan that you can set up for yourself to help you become successful in your job search. So you talk about other things that you can do at the beginning of your job search other than applying for jobs. There's a lot of preparation that goes into applying for jobs, and so it's not just you're going to sit down on your computer and just start applying for jobs. You want to do a little bit of research beforehand. You want to identify your target position and industry. Are you going to stick with the same type of job that you had? Are you looking to change careers or industries completely? You want to develop your me in 30 seconds elevator pitch. We'll talk a little bit about that later, but it's something that your job coach is going to help you with. You need to be able to sell yourself to your potential employer. And so the idea behind the 30-second elevators pitch is if you were going into an elevator and you saw somebody that you wanted to work for their company, you need to be able to sell yourself in that 30-second ride from the elevator to the floor that you're on. So you need to develop a very direct pitch that explains your skills and experience succinctly. So you want to identify accomplishments for your resume and applications. So you want to be able to not only explain what your job descriptions were, but you want to explain how you excelled in your job. So your resume needs to speak to both of that. You need to create 5 situation, action, and result statements. So that's explaining a situation, what your actions were, and the results of those actions. So a lot of times during an interview, you'll be asked questions like that, and you need to be able to give a clear answer that's no more than 1 minute long. And we'll talk a little bit about all of this throughout this orientation. As you're kind of preparing all of these, you need to prepare your resume. You can prepare your cover letter. A lot of this stuff is things that your job coach can help you with. We have a great team of resume writers, and they can help you either refresh your resume, refresh your cover letter, make it applicant tracking system compliant. Our resume team is great with that. But a lot of things that you see on this slide are things that your job coach can help you with. Your job coach can help you with interviewing, identifying skills and accomplishments, helping you develop that 30-second elevator pitch. Your job coach can encourage you and help you build confidence. So a lot of these things, if you feel a little lost and you're not sure where to start, this is a great opportunity to work with a job coach. So this is just an example of the weekly action plan that we discussed, and this is something that we will send out as a soft copy after the orientation. So I want to talk a little bit about self-care during your job search. As we talked about, it's kind of a phrase that I reuse: searching for a job is a job, and it can be really stressful. Especially if you're really very much in need of a job right now. It can be very stressful. So it's always very important to also take a step back and make sure that you're taking care of yourself in the job search process so you don't burn out. You need to make sure that you don't compare yourself to anybody else. everybody's story is different. Everybody's job search is different. So, if you and a friend are searching for a job and your friend gets a job right away and you don't need to compare yourself to that person and think of yourself as a failure. When one door closes, another opens. You need to get used to rejection. There's a good chance that you're not going to get the first job that you apply for. So you need to, always understand that if the job that you want, you aren't able to get, just know that there's other opportunities out there and you're going to find one that's going to be a good fit for you. Embrace your mistakes and learn from them. Sometimes going into an interview, if you haven't been in an interview for a while, you might make mistakes. You might stutter, or you might be nervous. Learn from those mistakes and build and improve upon those. And don't be so hard on yourself. Take opportunities to develop yourself. The job assistance program, your job coaches, your resume writers, they're really great to help you develop yourself and build confidence. But there's also lots of other opportunities out there that you can take advantage of. PRC has some great job assistance workshops where you can learn about specific things to the job search, such as like LinkedIn. We have a great workshop on interviewing. We have a great workshop on career change. Take opportunities to learn and develop yourself so you can be successful in the job search, and share your journey with someone you trust. It's always a good idea to have somebody that you can talk to about your job search. When you're feeling stressed or you need to bounce ideas off somebody. So find somebody you trust and somebody that's willing to sit down and talk to you. When you need somebody to bounce ideas off of. So want to talk a little bit about some of the different job assistance services that PRC offers. We talked a lot about working with a job coach. We talked a little bit about some of the different things that your job coach can help you with. We talked about creating and reviewing your resume. So if you do need a resume created from scratch, we're able to do that. Our resume team can develop a very simple template and help you create a resume if you don't have one. We can also, if you have a resume that just needs to be refreshed, if it's outdated, we have a team that can update your resume and make it applicant tracking system compliant. And we do all of this. If you're a PRC client, all of our services are free of charge. We can help you measure and build your professional skills. We have a great program, assessment program that has about 1,000 different assessments. Anywhere from, if you want to assess yourself and see if you'd be a good police dispatcher, 911 operator, we have an assessment that you can take, all the way up to very specific computer programs. So if you want to assess your skills on Salesforce or Microsoft Office, there's an assessment that you can take for that. So if you just want to kind of get an idea of what careers or what industries might be a good fit for you, we have a great assessment tool that you can use to see what skills and experience you have that are related to that job, and what additional skills or experiences you might need to be a better fit for jobs like that. We mentioned attending lots of different library workshops. We run virtual and in-person library workshops at libraries throughout DuPage County that cover a wide range of different library topics. Many of those are also available on our website, the virtual version. So if you aren't able to attend a live library workshop, you can go online to the PRC Job Assistance website, and we have a library of some of the virtual workshops that we've hosted with some of the libraries. If you want to see what library workshops are coming up, you can check out our calendar on our website. It has links directly in the calendar where you can sign up. Finally, we have PRC's online job board. I work with a variety of different employers throughout DuPage County. They send me their open positions, which I post on the online job board. All these organizations are either in DuPage County or right outside DuPage County. So, and we cover a variety of different industries. So I have nonprofit jobs, I have manufacturing jobs, customer service, retail, lots of entry-level jobs, management jobs, and even some director-level jobs or upper management jobs are also posted on there. So if you want to see what jobs are available, and some of these jobs aren't posted on some of the, like Indeed, some of the more popular internet job boards. Some of these are just sent directly to me. So if you want to see what's on there, we'd highly encourage you to check out the online job board. That can also be accessed through the PRC website. So what's it like working with a job coach? So your PRC job assistance program assists job seekers that are actively engaged with a job coach and committed to an action plan. So what does that mean is your job coach is not going to do everything for you. Your job coach is going to help you with whatever. So everything is very personalized. So your job coach can help you with interviewing. Your job coach can help you with the job search. Your job coach can provide you with show you different resources on the internet or provide you feedback and advice, but they're not going to do the work for you. That's why I say your job coach provides you as assistance. They don't apply for the job for you. Once you're assigned a job coach, they will contact you to set up the initial meeting. Your job coach is a PRC volunteer, so they don't work in a paid position for PRC. So they work various days and hours. So we'll try to make sure that we set you up with a job coach that is available during the times that you can meet with them. If you need to reach out to your job coach directly, or if you need to reach out to either myself or the PRC jobs coordinator, you can contact PRC directly at 630-682-5402, extension 333. That extension will allow you to leave a voicemail. You can leave a voicemail, and then somebody from PRC, from the job assistance team, will usually call you back within 24 to 48 hours. So one of the other services that we offer at PRC is we can help create and review your resume. So if you have a non-existent, incomplete, or out-of-date resume, this is something that your resume writer can help you with. We're experts at creating resumes that are applicant tracking system compliant. So we can help you create a resume that it might be very plain looking, but that's a lot of what resumes are nowadays, is very plain. We don't have all the colors and all the pictures, because those are the things that the applicant tracking system, if you put it through the system, it kind of spits it out because lots of colors in different fonts, that confuses it. So we want to make sure that your resume is very plain. And your resume writers and your job coaches are experts at making sure that your resume is applicant tracking system compliant. So we can help you measure and build your professional skills. So we talked a lot about that, that assessment tool that we offer. So it validates your experience and proves to potential employers that you possess the necessary skills. So the KX tool, the KX is the assessment tool, and it contains hundreds of tests for clerical, software, industrial, healthcare, financial, and technical job classifications. So like I said before, there's over 1,000 tests at this point. So any industry or career that you might be interested in, chances are there's a few different assessments that cover those industries or cover some of the tools and software those industries might use. So if you are interested in kind of even seeing the catalog of assessments that are being offered, just talk to your job coach and they can help set you up. We talked about the library workshops. So if you're interested in attending the library workshops, we offer anywhere from usually 4 to 6 different library workshops per month. Everything as of right now is virtual, but if you are interested in seeing what different workshops are already available online, the link is here on the PowerPoint, but will also be sent out to you after the orientation. So these are just some examples of the workshops that we're currently offering. And this is the link to our online job board. So jobs usually add anywhere from 5 to 10 new jobs per week on the job board, so it is constantly updated. When you do go to the link or the website, it will ask for a login and a password. So the login and password is the information is right here, but it's also on the website. So once you get to the website, it'll actually have the login and password. You just need to enter that information in to access the job board. And if you find a job that on the job board that you're interested in, let your job coach know or let myself know, because there's a good chance that I might have a direct connection to that employer or the hiring manager, and we might be able to send over your information directly to that employer. So A couple things before we move on. We always want to talk about what our expectations are for our PRC jobs clients. We want you to, if you're scheduling an appointment with your job coach, we want you to make sure that that you honor that commitment. Like I said, our job coaches are volunteers and they're taking time out of their day to meet with you. So if you schedule an appointment, we want to make sure that you honor that commitment. But if you are unable to, just make sure that you give your job coach as far as in advance as possible, so they're not driving to the library and waiting for you. If you do miss more than 3 meetings or do not return more than 3 phone calls from your job coach, we will inactivate you from the program. So just make sure that you are you continue to communicate with the job assistance team and your job coach to keep you active in the program. We want to make sure that your job coach is going to help you with your job search, and sometimes they might ask you to develop a goal or a job plan for yourself. So we want to make sure that you honor those commitments and follow through with any assignments or things that you and your job coach agree that you'll do together. And we want you to be honest with your job coach about any past job experiences or job related issues. So if you did get laid off from a job or you got fired from a job, let your job coach know that so you guys can talk through how you might answer that during an interview. It is not uncommon, especially nowadays, to for people to get laid off, especially with COVID. So there's lots of different ways that you can answer some potentially tough questions. When you do become employed, when you do get a job with the help of your job coach, make sure that you let your job coach know. We always like to share the successes that our clients have, but it's also good information for us to have too. A lot of times we like to report this information. This is what helps us get grants and funding for the program by us sharing with our funders what types of jobs our clients get. So when you do get a job, just make sure that you let your job coach know what job you got so they can share it with us. PRC will contact you. Usually it's anywhere from 90 days to 6 months out once you get your job to kind of check in and see how you're doing and see if there's any additional resources or support that PRC can offer. So just know that when you're no longer active in the job assistance program, we'll still likely call and check up on you to see how you're doing. Your job coach will also be available. Once you start your job, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are done with PRC. You still have access to your job coach for as long as you need once you start your job. So if you need help, negotiating a pay increase or negotiating a promotion, these are still things that your job coach can help you with as well. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the hiring process and what steps are there between applying for a job and getting the job offer. So a lot of these things we've already talked about. So we talked about the preparation phase, making sure that you're job ready before you actually apply for jobs. You don't want to apply for jobs right away and then get a call back and get a phone screen and you're not properly prepared to sell yourself to the employer. So that preparation phase that you're going to work on with your job coach is really important. And once you start applying for jobs, like I said, many of the jobs that you're going to apply for is going to be online. And many jobs nowadays, it's not just a one interview and done. For a lot of times, your job is going to start with a phone screen. So you might get an email or a phone call from the job that you applied for, asking to schedule a phone screen with you. Typically, those are anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, and they're either with the recruiter or the hiring manager. And it's a very basic phone call. They just want to talk to you a little bit about your skills and experiences and make sure that you are potentially a good fit to move on to the second round of the interviews. The second round of the interview tends to be anywhere from 1 hour to an hour and a half. That's likely with the hiring manager or the head of the department that you're going to be working for. Those are going to be a lot more intense. They're going to be, there'll be multiple, they'll ask you multiple questions, about your skills and experience. This is probably where they're going to be asking you those situation, action, and results questions. So this is the interview that you need to be really prepared for. This is also the interview that's likely to take place in person, or even some of these interviews now, with the technology in place because of the coronavirus, even a lot of organizations now are doing the entire interview process virtually. So you never even have to go into the office to meet them in person. After the second interview, there's a chance that, in order as like a final round, if there's any testing involved. So sometimes, if you're going to be working with a pretty, complicated computer software, they might want to make sure that you have the necessary computer skills to be successful working with that software. So depending on what the job is, there might be some testing or assessments involved before they actually offer you the job. So if you're a good fit, if you pass the first and the second round, any testing that you have to do, you're going to get a call from that employer, and they're going to offer you the job. So we'll even talk to you a little bit about what to do when the job is offered. We actually offer we have a great workshop called Negotiating the Job Offer that talks through the whole process of negotiating your salary, your benefits, and making sure that this is the job that you're being offered is a good fit before you accept it. So with that, I'm going to pass it along to Charles Holt. He's one of our job coaches, and he's going to talk to you about building your job search network.
Thank you, Paul. Let's talk about a word here, network. As a job coach, I frequently get this: I don't have a network. I don't know what it is. What do I do? Well, network is a very important word. This slide discusses the fact that 15% of available jobs are advertised. That means on the job boards, on Indeed, on ZipRecruiter, on all of these aggregator sites. Where are the other 85%? How are they filled? They're filled primarily through networking. And this networking can be, it can be at the company. It could be network current employees at the company. If they know somebody, that's a form of networking. There's other avenues for networking. Let's just talk a little bit about networking. What really is networking? Networking is reaching out to people, reaching out to friends, relatives. It could be meeting somebody for coffee. You could network. It could be at a job fair. I believe we have a job fair coming up in March, if I'm not mistaken. It's something like that. You can be surprised who you can network with at a job fair. So think about that. Volunteer work. If you're involved in volunteer work, you can certainly network with people in that volunteer group. Social media. And there's many different names of social media. You can network through the social media, obviously. Conferences, spreading the word. What does it mean? It means that everybody out there is a possibility for networking. And that, again, that's reaching out. And how do you reach out? You take a board that says, I need a job? No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about yourself. And here's a few tips in the job searching. Be authentic, be yourself. It can't come across as a can thing. Be yourself, be considerate, ask for advice. I used to have people network with me, and they would ask me about the industry I was in and discuss what I was familiar with, and they asked for advice. Do you think this would be a good thing for me? Here's my background. That would be something that you might think about. Be specific in your request. And again, it's not your first line like, Lori, Paul, I need a job. What can you do for me? That's not what we're talking about. After you develop a little rapport, a little relationship with a person, that's when you reach out and ask for suggestions. People do like to make suggestions. And you have to be intentional about this networking. It can't be a haphazard thing like, well, maybe once a week I'll network or once a month. You have to be intentional. You have to have it on your mind. Otherwise, you're limited to that 15%. And yes, that's not written in stone, that 15%, but you will miss a lot if you don't network. And that's pretty much what this little The connected, it shows how we're all connected, and that absolutely is true. And we'll go through some of these. Some other examples, professional groups. Every professional group has online organizations, and they may have some local chapters, local groups that you can meet, chambers of commerce. There's many different venues like that. Online tools, we'll talk about that in a minute. Networking habits, I think you have the idea. Be prepared to talk about yourself, and be intentional about it, and just really go for it, and don't be intimidated by the word networking. Next slide. All right, in your job search, what do you have to do? Well, you're going to hear this word quite a few times during this presentation. Research is very important. And you want to find out, what do people, if it's a new industry for you, what do people do? What really is a job? So that's a career, industry, and employer. Maybe there are some employers that you really would like to work for, and maybe there are some that you wouldn't like to work for. You can research that certainly very easily on your computer. References we'll talk about, that's very important. Social media content, job search strategies, and then the last part of that is going to be, you have to be able to be reached by the employers, be available. Next slide. All right, here is an example of researching your target position, and this is called ONET Online. It's not a zero, it's a word one, tonline.org, and this will be in the slides that you have access to after you finish the orientation. This is a government website. It doesn't, you do not have a cost to this. They don't ask for a password and a username, nothing like that. You just go right on it, and this is what comes up. And for example, if you wanted a career in the medical field, or in the hospital, or in a school, in a teaching, you would just put that occupation quick search in that little box up at the right-hand corner. Click on that, and you're going to get a list of all the positions that are related to that. And you might have 30 positions related to that, different job titles, some more relevant than others. And if you go to any of those, you're going to generate a 10 to 20 page report that'll give you specifics. What do people do in the industry? What are the hard skills? Those are the computer, the certification, the educational type of thing. What's needed in that way, and the hard skills, soft skills, your communication skills, your ability to work with others in a team setting, anything like that is a soft skill. And there are different ways you can do it. It just doesn't have to be that little quick search thing up there. You can do it by occupation search. You can do by your skills, many different ways. And then there's a few little options on the other side. Veterans, and that's tied into My Next Move, which is the next slide. So let's move over to that. My Next Move is also the U.S. Department of Labor Statistics. And by the way, that's who you're going to with that ONET Online, federal government. And this is a good site if you're not really sure, or you're changing careers. Changing careers is a very common thing. I read recently that 25% of people in the next 4 years are going to go into a totally different career. Sounded reasonable to me. And how do they know if are they suited for that? Do they have the skills? Well, you can do a little research on ONET. You can do some research on this My Next Move. You can put keywords in there. What do you like to do? What are your skills? If it's accounting, for example, like, yeah, gee, I'm really great. I love numbers. Okay, well, do a search based on that. And what this does, this gives you options. It gives you things to think about. And obviously, there might be things that come up and you say, nope, not for me. That's fine. But if you have a list of 20 or 30 different things related to that skill, maybe some of them may pique your interest and certainly worth your while to explore. And there is a little test, not a test, a little assessment you can take related to this My Next Move, where they ask you simple questions like, you know, would you like to invent a drug to cure cancer? Would you like to build a cabinet for books? Anything, do you like to work with your hands? So it'll get into a little detail. It might give you some insight into what may suit you and that makes you happy, quite frankly. Next slide. All right, this sounds basic, but it really isn't. References. I had a client recently that called me up and said, yeah, I have an interview coming up, and they asked me to get my reference list over to them. Only problem, I don't have a reference list, and this is 2 days before the interview. Not a good plan, because the right way to do a reference list is to contact people and get their permission to use them as a reference. Tell them, explain to them that you're going to be applying for positions, and could I use you as a reference? Lori, Rhonda, Paul, could I use you as a reference? And get their phone number and their email. Email is probably the main way they will contact people. Let them know, keep them up to date on your job search. But what you don't want to do is put people down that may not know you when they get that reference. I had a person some years ago use me as a reference, and they worked with me many years earlier. My memory wasn't that good. I didn't recall who they were. And that, I assure you, isn't a good thing when you put a reference down and it's like, gee, I don't know who that person is. Doesn't bode well for your chances. So references are important. Do it, I would say, early in the process of job searching. Don't wait until 2 days before and try to scramble and get together a reference list. Next. All right, social media. This is important, getting more important by the day, and it's really critical. Social media, whatever you use, whatever name of the company, Twitter, Facebook, and on and on. I'm sure there's many that I have no awareness of. Wherever you are in social media, take a look at that. Take a look at your posts. Take a look at your photos or anything you have posted. Could it be controversial? Is it something political? Is it something that somebody could take offense to? Does it show you in less than a good light? You want to clean that up ahead of time. Because you think about it, it's very easy for a prospective employer to put your name in any of these sites and get your public post and like, oh, gee, I don't want that person working for me. So yeah, trustworthy, respectful, and responsible. That's the way you want to appear. And that's hopefully the way you really are, not just appearing. 70% of employees, I think that's low, use social media to screen candidates before hiring. All companies, even very entry-level jobs, they do these background checks. They really do. So take a look, clean up the media. And yeah, here's a little scary statistic. 54% of employers have eliminated a candidate based on social media. And all it would have taken not be eliminated, clean it up ahead of time. Clean it up. And your social media has to look good. Otherwise, you end up in that 54%. Next site, next page. Right here we are. Variety of job search strategies. And some of them you're pretty familiar with. Online job search engines. That's probably 100 different companies. The big ones are Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and many Glassdoor, on and on. Those companies, how they get those postings, by the way, is they look at the company's website, see what they have listed, and then they contact them and say, for this fee, we can post your jobs on our website, and we have a great track record. We can do assessment tools, different things. So that's where they get the information from the actual job postings. Industry-specific job boards. As I mentioned, there's a job board, there's probably an affiliated concern. Like example, we're in DuPage County, there's DuPage County Bar Association, which is attorneys. So if you said, I like to be a paralegal, or I'd like to do something in that field, I guarantee you there are job boards, and I have seen them with the DuPage Bar Association where they post jobs. That's a simple example. Social media platforms, we've discussed that. We're well aware of that. Company websites, this is probably, if you can narrow your search down it makes your job search easier if you can say, I have 20 target companies I'd like to work for. Great. Don't bother at that point with the online job search. Go to those companies, go to their websites and search what they have available. And just about any size employer will have careers, jobs. There will be some place you can access who they're looking for employment-wise. State website, IDS is the unemployment, Illinois Department of Employment Security. They have a lot of postings. That's worth looking at. And they have some other tools that may be worth your while to look at on that IDES. Government websites, we just discussed it. ONET Online, My Next Move, those are government websites. Congratulations, you can put a check mark by community resource. People's Resource Center is a community resource, and you're there. You're viewing or listening to this presentation, and so right there, community resource. Job Council, I know Paul is involved with various job councils in this area. You'll want to look into job councils. If you're a veteran, look into that. College, yes, College DuPage, any college, I don't care where they are, have an alumni association, and they have typically postings. You can look at jobs. Employers like to post it, certainly at that college or junior college level. They like to have their jobs posted there. So look into that. Recruiters, don't be nervous about recruiters. Recruiters are typically paid by the company that hires them to locate people to be employees to fill vacant job positions that they do need to fill. So certainly look at recruiters. What I didn't see listed on here is LinkedIn, and I don't want to forget about that. LinkedIn is a very, very important tool with about 900 million people worldwide on it. Recruiters use it. Take a look at talk to your job coach about LinkedIn, very important tool. Newspapers, that's a little old school, but there still are postings in the, for example, this past weekend, Chicago Tribune probably had 200 local good jobs, very good jobs, matter of fact. And libraries have different tools that you can use. So you may want to look into your local library and see what they have to offer you. Next. All right. Imagine you spend an hour, you do a job application, and you do some research on the company, and you put 2 hours in, and away goes your application. It doesn't get chewed up by the ATS, that's the applicant tracking system that we'll speak to. And somebody sees it and says, yes, Lori looks good. Let's email Lori. And they email Lori for an interview, and 3 days, 5 days go by, and Lori didn't check her email. I know you wouldn't do that, Lori, but that does happen. People don't check their email. That's not good. I would say check it daily, certainly the email. As far as the phone, if they did call, and it can happen, the company can call, a recruiter can call you, and if it says, this is Lori, leave a message, and then there's something comes on that says, this mailbox is full, it's not accepting messages, goodbye, a click in the ear, that company isn't going to call you back. You want to make sure your mailbox can accept messages, and check your email on a daily basis at least. An email address, this is just an example, marysmith@gmail.com. You may not be lucky enough to get one that simple, but a business like email, I would say, should have your name, part of your name in it, maybe a number a number in there, and pretty simple, nothing complicated, nothing with 45 letters or something that talks about your activities. You don't want that. A simple email, professional. Next. All right. Resumes, cover letters, and applications. And pretty simple, the resume, your cover letter, and your application, imagine you send it over and you didn't do a spell check on it, and there's 5 typos in there, misspellings, and everything's not the way it should be. How is that going to reflect when you put in there, Yes, I am really good with attention to detail. There's a buzzword for you, attention to detail. I have a lot of attention to detail, but I don't know how to use my computer. Don't know how to spell. Probably not going to go well for you if you have typos. Concise. You don't want anything too wordy in there. Nothing that is going to take them half an hour to read or even 2 minutes, quite frankly. Concise means short, easy to read. That means a lot of white space. Can't have solid black on there, and it just really throws people off when they see that. It looks like too much. Professional and ATS compliant, and ATS is that applicant tracking system. The applicant tracking system is simply a computer program at the company that you're applying with that looks over your resume and says, does this person have the skills? Does this person match what we need? Did this person put their resume together correctly? Simple things like your date of employment at your last position. If you said I started in January of 2013 and you spelled out JAN for January, guess what? That's not going to work. It's got to be 01/2013. And that's six-digit format. That will get your resume as good as you think it is. It's the little things like that can get your resume trashed. And you don't want that. Next. All right, resume, marketing tool. I was in sales, so I'm going to call it, resume is a sales tool. It is. It is your written presentation of who you are and why you believe you are going to be an asset to that company. You are going to be a profitable employee. And that doesn't necessarily mean money. It can just mean that you help them get done what they need to get done. And that makes you a profitable employee. And pretty simple, what does a resume have? Up at the top, the contact information. And by the way, your job coach and the resume writers will work with you on this to get this, to get it right. But this is the basic format. Contact up at the top, personal information or professional statement. And that's just a statement, 3, 4, 5 lines, maybe not too long, that I have. An example would be I have 15 years of experience in marketing, and my last position, this is what I accomplished. I saved my employer $50,000, or I sold $1 million worth of product. Something, an accomplishment might be in there, but it's got to be something concise. And why do I want to keep reading this if I'm an employer? That's really what that professional summary will do. Then you get into the work history, and we'll talk about the different format on that. Military, volunteer experience. Volunteer experience is certainly very important. Military experience is very important also. Education and awards. I have this certification. I would like to work in the medical field, and certainly I have an RN. I have this, I have that. That's what we're talking about there, your education. Certificates. Yeah, there's certifications for driving a forklift. There's certifications for just about many, not say everything, but many fields have certifications that you can get. That's not a 4-year program. That may be a lot less than that, obviously. Assessment results. Paul had spoken about these KX tests, and those assessments are very similar, if not exactly what a company might have you do when you get past your first interview and it's on to the next. It's like, well, let's see if Paul really has it together. Paul says that he's really great with Excel, and this is a bookkeeping and accounting position. Let's give Paul one of these KX tests. If you have taken it through PRC at no cost again, and you did well on it, that's something that can go right on your resume. And all I would advise a client is Microsoft Excel, KX test, 2022, 99%, 90% correct. That goes a long way. That will help. And if you didn't do well, maybe that's a wake-up call for you that you need to take some classes at PRC or at COD or at any place of your liking to get up to speed, if that's a requirement for that position. Next. All right, kind of a laundry list. I won't read this all off. I've mentioned some of it. Do have white space, readable, that's readability. Accomplishments more than what your job duties were. Accomplishments are, yes, I was in sales and I sold this much product. That's an accomplishment, or I exceeded my quota by 500%. Accomplishment. A duty is I worked as a server at a restaurant, and my job was I carried the plate from the kitchen to the person's table. Pretty simple, not very exciting, a duty typically. And the employer certainly knows what the duties are at what you're looking for. So accomplishments, keywords, you are going to get those from the job description that you see on the computer. You can get that also from ONET Online. If the job description isn't lengthy enough, doesn't tell you enough, go to ONET Online and that'll tell you, what do people really do? You need to be proficient in this or proficient in this, or you have to be really a very good communicator. You're going to get these keywords, and those have to be in your resume. Otherwise, that nasty applicant tracking system will say no. And again, I do want to mention one thing. Paul mentioned rejection. Rejection, it's never a rejection of you personally. By the way, when you send in a resume and you don't hear anything, they don't know you, they didn't speak to you. Maybe an applicant had better qualifications than you did. So don't take this rejection thing personally. It's never personal. Sans serif font, and I am not a resume writer. We have Rhonda with us today. I believe this is without tails, Rhonda. Yes, okay, Rhonda says yes, sans serif is without tails. Correct format, I mentioned that. Clear and concise, be short, not too long. And jump in, Rhonda, if there's something that I'm leaving out here. Don'ts, colored paper, don't have your photo up there, even as good looking as you are, don't put your photo on there. Short resumes are the best. 5 pages, 10 pages, not good. 2 pages, that's usually about as long as you should be. Misspelling, we spoke about that. Long paragraphs means concise. Provide job titles and dates with no information. You say, I worked at AT&T from this date to this date, and nothing, no accomplishments. It's like, what did I do? Did I just show up and collect a paycheck? That's, it's got to be more than that. And vague, objective, or jargon. I'm not sure what jargon they're talking about here, but you want to be clear, understandable, so somebody reading it can say, yeah, this is what Lori meant when she sent this resume in. Next. All right, ATS, again, applicant tracking system. And 90%, I believe Rhonda mentioned this to me, there's 90 or 100 different versions of this. Correct, Rhonda?
There are about 400 different applicant tracking systems in use today.
Oh my goodness, Rhonda.
400.
400. Oh, I'm really getting scared here. 400 different systems I have to get by. Well, actually, a company buys the system they like. I did not know that. That tells me that it's probably well over 90% of the companies that use this software. And it means that I better learn what needs to be done to get through this system. And it's a filter system. That's really all it is. And we talked about it. The fonts, the keywords, things like that. Why do companies bother with us? Well, because the majority of people that apply for positions, they're not qualified. I have a sister that's a recruiter, and she tells me that on a Monday morning, she'll have 500 applications, 500. And then they put it through the ATS at this company, and it's down to about 60. So it tells you 80, 90% aren't qualified. They may just do the one-click thing Paul talked about, like 10 seconds. I don't know what I applied for, but that was a 10-second thing to apply. So I figured, what the heck, why not? Well, why should a company waste time with people like me that just shot it in there and not even know what I'm applying for or if I have any qualifications? So this makes it makes sense from the company's standpoint, and it makes sense for you to just be aware that it's out there and know how to get past it. Next. Keywords. All right, we mentioned that, but we'll just go over it briefly again. The ATS is looking for those keywords, whatever that is, whether it's if it was customer, I'll pick a simple one, customer service position. And if you don't have the word customer service in your resume, not going to fly. That would be a keyword, certainly. And there are programs you can use that will tell you how many times certain words are in a job description, how many times those words are in your resume. So you can talk to your job coach about those different programs that you can go to and see, do I match? It's very important. You want as many matches as you can get. And again, we're saying to be honest here, not to say, yes, I have experience as an astronaut. I flew to the moon when I didn't. No line. We're talking about, yes, I really have that skill and I can use it as a keyword because I do have that. And the keywords, we mentioned it, job description. Here's a different one. Google search keywords for your targeted position. Tag crowd, that's what I was referring to, resume, Word, job scan. That's where you can paste in your resume, you can paste in the job description, and you can see, do I have those keywords? And go to these, they're pretty much free. I don't believe there's any charge for these for people to do that. See, make sure you have the keywords. Again, you can have great experience, but if you don't have the keywords, you won't get through the ATS. Next. All right. These are hard to read, even very hard for me through my glasses here. But on the left side, we have a chronological resume. And chronological, chronos, time, that's where that word chronological comes from. And it's really just a short summary up at the top. Here's who I am, I'm Rhonda, and here's why you should keep on reading. That was what we mentioned before. And then Rhonda goes into her work experience, three or four different positions, the dates when she worked there, and accomplishments, not job duties, listed underneath with bullet points, accomplishments. So that's pretty straightforward. And maybe down at the bottom, there's some volunteer experience and education. So that's a pretty simple one. And on the other side is an example of a functional resume. A functional resume is set up a little bit differently. It says what the person did up at the top. This is Lawrence, and Lawrence was a warehouse manager and results oriented. I can read that and a couple other words. Again, the summary, here's what I accomplished. Here's what, really I'm good at. Here's why you should keep on reading. And the accomplishments are kind of listed in bullet points down there, and very short information about the employment down at the bottom. Work with your job coach, with your resume writer. There are situations where this is the preferred format, but typically more typical is the chronological. Next. Duties and accomplishments. All right. If you don't have the idea, you will by after I finish this slide. Again, it's duties. A duty is what you did. I showed up and this is what I did. I did this thing and I did this thing. Now those are duties. Accomplishments is how well you did it. Accomplishment, for example, one of these, I worked in a call center or answered phones. Well, sounds kind of boring. It sounds a lot better to say I quickly responded to customer needs by answering 99% of incoming calls before 3 rings. There's a great accomplishment. And if you have any awards that you received, for example, I was customer service person of the month, customer service person of the year, those can certainly be listed in here also. that goes along with your accomplishments. Data entry. Rather than sit, yep, I punched the keys on a computer and I did data entry. Pretty boring. Accomplishment, here's what I did for the company. They didn't just hire me to be a robot, they hired me to do something, and I did. I recommended improvements to Microsoft Excel spreadsheets, which resulted in improved billing methods, which results in cash flow for the company. If bills are paid quicker, that's quicker money is more profitable for a company, obviously. So again, they want to know, did you help your last employer be more profitable, to get things done in a better way? That's what they're looking for. That's an accomplishment. Next. All right, cover letters. There's a lot of misunderstandings about cover letters. A common question I get is, do I really need to use a cover letter? I would say unless you can't attach it. For example, many times when you do an online application, it'll say attach your resume, and maybe it'll fill in some fields for you. And if that's all you're allowed to attach, that's all you're allowed to attach. But many times it'll say attach documents here, attach a cover letter. A cover letter, again, covers things that aren't going to be in your resume that really highlight something like, yes, I have 20 years of experience in eating pizza. That's why I would love to work at your pizza company. Okay, silly, but something to catch their attention. Key strengths. My key strengths are this. Why I believe, and I not just believe, I have belief in myself, and I have confidence in two big things in job coaching, by the way: belief in yourself and confidence in yourself. Believe that you can do the job, because if you don't, I guarantee you it'll come across in the resume, and it'll certainly come across in the interview if you lack that belief in yourself. So believe that here's why I believe I fit the position, and here's how I believe, or I know, or I'm so confident I can really make a difference in your company. And again, you'll get help with this. Cover letters are important. Next. All right. General guidelines for cover letters. Yep. Hired manager, address it to them by name, last name. And as I mentioned, it's not your resume. You don't just want to say, here it is, and list everything on your resume. That's not the purpose of it. Accomplishments, we already spoke to that. Again, correct grammar, spelling, punctuation, little details are very important. They really are. That can make the difference between getting a job and not getting it. Standard business letter form, same font as your resume. If your resume was, I'm throwing a name out here, Times New Roman, and I hope that's a thing that exists. If you did it with that, you want to match it up with this. Speak directly to the job description. Yes, that they're looking, if you think about it, they have a job description of the HR hiring manager. They're looking at that and they're comparing it to your resume and to the cover letter. Speak to the job description. Again, be succinct, not long and wordy. People don't spend long on these resumes. Have it short. All right, just moving on. This is pretty simple, and we've addressed quite a bit of this. Job application. You've got to do it correctly, and you will be sent a sample with this presentation. Do it once. Get it correct. Many times I'll be talking to a client and I'll say, okay, what month and year did you start that position? Well, I don't know. Well, you have to know, you have to get this correct. You think about it, if they verify your employment and you're off by 3 months, it's not going to look good. The job application is technically a legally binding document that you sign, maybe electronically. Get the information, do it once, spend an hour, 2 hours, however long you have to, get all your details, get it done correctly, and make sure that you get that same correct information on all of the applications you do. Accuracy, we've spoken to that. Complete it once and keep it, so you don't need to keep thinking like, I forgot, was it April I started there in 2013, or did I start in August? You shouldn't have to do that. Do it once, go back through your records. if the company is still in existence, call HR, ask for their help if you don't remember. You want to be able to verify this. It should be good, verifiable information. Next. All right, just a laundry list of what, and we know nothing too unusual here. What's going to be on a job application? All of this personal education certificates, your work history, salary in Illinois. You're not required to say what you did at your last position. There are exceptions to that. Government and some national companies, for example, had somebody recently wanted to apply at a local grocery chain that was part of a national grocery chain, and that was on there. Talk to your job coach if that comes up, what to put in there. Military, if you're in, if that's applicable. Achievements and distinctions, always good to remember. And I don't care if it was 5 years ago. So it happened. Who cares what, I got the award 5 years ago. No, this is important, and it should go in your job application. References typically aren't going to be in the job application. If they were, fine, put them in there. Next. All right, job application is not an interview, but they may have some screening type questions in there. Why did you leave your last job? Today, if you said, well, COVID blew into town and that was the end of my position, there was a reduction in force. Well, welcome, you and 10, 20 million other people. Certainly nothing negative on your part. Personal reasons, you had a family member, you had to take a year off and help them with their health situation or whatever the personal situation is. I had a lady recently that raised a family, wonderful thing. And she said, I said, how would you explain it? She says, well, I would say I had the privilege of raising my family for 10 years or however long they were out of the job market. Well, nothing wrong with any of these. You have to have a reason. What you don't want is them to think like, well, yeah, Charles didn't work for 10 years, but he knows every movie picture on Netflix. That's not going to fly. It's got to be, here's what I did. I stayed current with my skills. I kept up to date. I took computer classes at PRC in Excel. That's the type of thing. I volunteered. What did you do? Something you did during that time period. Talk to your job coach. And again, Paul mentioned, be honest with your job coach. I am a job coach and I'm not a mind reader. That's not one of my skills. None of our job coaches are mind readers. With this, everything you tell us is confidential. We don't, call up anybody or do anything like that. Tell us if you had a misdemeanor, a felony, if there was anything and you were fired, tell us about it. We'll walk through and come up with a way to present it. And again, we don't like negative words. That's not a big thing, negative words. In a job application, you don't want to use, I was fired. That's not, there's something better that you can do, but stay positive, talk to your job coach. And I'm going to turn it over to Lori.
Thank you, Charles. Hi, I'm Lori, and I'm going to be talking to you about the next step. And Charles just discussed the job application, and that's just one way you're going to gather information about yourself. The next part is really giving you an insight into how to tell your story, how to reflect in things like your resume, your cover letter, your introduction at a job fair, how you answer interview questions. It's how you gather the what you're going to say based on all of your work history and your skills that you've developed over the years of your career. So I love this little diagram because it shows the importance of gathering all that information about you up front. And when you do that and you do a good job of it, it gives life, it breathes life into all of the job search activities. So I always love doing something up front and doing it well, and then reaping the benefit of that with all the other activities that come later. So that's really going to be the focus of the section I'm going to discuss this morning. Okay, next slide. So here's the hierarchy of telling your story, and we're going to start at the bottom with power statements. And then we're going to move on to what are called SAR statements, and I'll tell you what, I think Paul kind of discussed what that stands for, but and then we're going to move on to the me in 30 seconds or the elevator pitch, as it's called. So let's take a look at power statements to start. And I love power statements, next slide, because they are a really quick way to convey a lot of powerful information about you, hence the name power statement. So they are designed to give an example and results. So they're trying to prove that you have a specific skill. And here's an example at the bottom. As a purchasing manager, it's important for me to be accurate and attentive. For example, I discovered and fixed a mistake on a large internal order before it was placed, saving the company $5,000. Now, not everybody has this great, powerful a power statement, but you can see from this, we can learn a lot of information about this person. I mean, they already are saying, I need to be accurate and attentive. So those things come through already, but they also then provide an example of how those skills translate into on-the-job performance, saving the company a lot of money in this case. So let's pull this apart and I'll show you how to do a power statement. And then you can practice these on your own. Next slide. Okay, so here's how you do this. First of all, it does take some self-reflection. It takes sitting down and really thinking about your previous jobs, any teams you worked on, any specific projects you worked on, and then trying to come up with some accomplishments. And these can be, these don't have to be anything grandiose, like I saved the company $5,000. I really literally had one person coming through orientation that thought long and hard about this and came back and said, you know what, one Saturday, I decided to go into the office on off hours and I cleaned out the supply closet because it was a mess and nobody nobody knew where anything was, and we never knew when to reorder. So we would go out, you know, we'd be out of something critical when somebody needed it. So I organized the supply closet so that it was clearly marked. Everybody knew where things were. And when it was time to reorder, we could see if something was empty and place the order. So it's a small accomplishment, but imagine the ripple effect, the benefit that small, you know, thing that person did had for the entire organization. She said everybody came in on Monday and were wowed by this small thing that she had done. So she wrote that down, and then we worked with her on the next step, which is what skills or traits did I need to be able to have to accomplish what I did? So in her case, you know, there was attention to detail. She needed to be somewhat selfless because, you know, being a team player, because she came in on off hours. She did something above and beyond probably what was in her job description to benefit the organization. So this is how you do the power statements. Again, list the accomplishment first, and we've given you three, you know, room for 3 of these if you want to try these out. And then list those skills and traits you needed to be able to do that. And if you're seeing a theme here, those skills and traits, those are what Paul and Charles were discussing when they said the word keywords. Keywords are those skills and traits that help you do your job. And those are the things that need to be in your resume and under the job descriptions that you put on your resume and in your cover letter. So these are really simple. Again, they're designed to really tell a lot about you in a short amount of time. So the next slide is actually a list of skills and traits. Again, these are keywords, another way to say it. But we've provided you a handy dandy list here that you can use to accomplish and perfect your power statements. Keywords I want to also stress, if you Google search, give me keywords for administrative assistant, Google will provide you with, you know, hundreds of words that will help you out. You can actually use sites like ONET Online to do this as well, as Charles mentioned. So there's lots of help out there for you to be able to come up with these words. And they're you know, as you can see, these are action-packed words. They are words like leadership, negotiator, sense of courage, things like that, that really can add a lot to your power statement. Okay, next. Next, we're going to move on and talk about STAR statements. And you may have also heard these referred to as STAR statements, situation, task, action, result. But we simplify it a little bit here. It's situation, action, result. And again, I'm going to show you step by step how to put these together. And we'll move to the next slide. But first, I'm going to give you an example. This is a pretty good one here. I'm going to read the bottom one actually. At my restaurant, I once found out mere hours in advance about a health inspection. As the head chef, I was in charge of making sure everything was in order in the kitchen and the back of house before the inspector arrived. I quickly called in employees from the last shift to help out, leaving the others available to prep for that evening's dinner. As a result, we were able to ace the inspection. So you can see this is kind of a chronological but brief account of what happened, and provides a lot of information about this person. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is this person was really able to think on their feet and be resourceful. So you can see, exactly the activity that happened. Oops, got a health inspection, got to figure out how to handle this. Here are my responsibilities, but I went above and beyond the call of duty in that I called in employees from the last shift. They were able to help out. And then you have to end with the all important result. We aced the inspection. So you kind of see how these things lay out. So let's look at it in the format of how you're going to be able to do it. And here's my suggestion on this. Break it down into situation, action, result. Follow that pattern and put a sentence in each of these boxes. So if you come up with your example in your head, first outline the situation, what happened, the action you took, and then the results of what you did. And you're going to need to massage these a little bit so that you don't have redundant words and that it flows nicely. But again, start with a sentence in each of the boxes and you'll come up with a nice little STAR statement. If between the power statement and the STAR statements, you're beginning to see a pattern here, it's that results are important, first of all, but these are also things that can go on your resume and in your cover letter, in particular your resume, to really show more color, more depth to your jobs. As Charles mentioned, you just don't want to put your job title and description down on paper. The job description, if you're putting that on your resume, the employer already knows what's required of the job. That's why you're being interviewed for it. What they want to see is, more depth. What did you do that they could benefit their organization? What were the results of that? So these can be those bullet points that go on your resume. They can also be answers to interview questions, and that's specifically important. Give me an example of, something you did on the job where you went above and beyond the call of duty. You would have a ready-made answer. So these are things that you can practice on your own ahead of time, even before you meet with your job coach or the resume writer. And again, these really give depth to your employment history. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is the me in 30 seconds, also called the elevator pitch. And as Paul mentioned, if you have less than 30 seconds, that time of a brief elevator ride from the first floor to the 20th floor, and somebody asks you to tell me about yourself, this is that response. And it's really designed, these do take some time. I'm going to tell you that right off the gate. They do need to be massaged a little bit so that it flows nicely, it's succinct, concise, but it's designed to introduce yourself, give a brief glimpse into what you've done in your work history, talk about some strengths, and then conclude with a kind of a powerful ending that suggests to the company or the person you're talking to that you could be of value to them. So let's break this apart. And I'm going to give you an example first, and I'm going to use the last one. I'm a highly skilled professional nanny with experience raising infants to teenagers, including special needs children. I'm currently in search of the next opportunity to bring my enthusiasm, organization, work ethic, and dependability to the job of helping you raise your children. I thrive in a collaborative family environment where I can make myself indispensable to you as parents and grow alongside your household. So let's talk about this me in 30 seconds. First of all, that may have sounded a little stiff because I just read it. And that's not what you want to do. You want to be able to commit this basic flow to memory and use it verbally as an elevator pitch. If somebody were to ask you that, in an elevator, probably not, or in an interview. So it needs to come off a little naturally. But you'll also find this somewhere else. And that place might be at the top of your resume. It could be your professional statement or your objective statement right at the top of your resume. You could also include some of this in a cover letter. It also, again, verbally, it could be used at a job fair or in a phone screen or, again, numerous different places. But within this me in 30 seconds, the elevator pitch, you are learning so much about this person. This person took a lot of time. I actually helped on this one to get this down pat. So it's just chock full of information about this candidate. They not only were a nanny, but they were had gone to nanny school. So that was something we really wanted to pull out, that they were a professional nanny. They weren't just a high school person looking for a summer job. And then some really key words come out here: enthusiasm, organization, work ethic, dependability. Those are all, music to a parent's ears. If they're hiring this nanny, they need somebody that shows up every day, because if nanny doesn't come to work, mom and dad don't go to work. And then finally, they talk about what really makes them unique and why you should hire them. And that's the big, ending, the big crescendo of the elevator pitch. And really is compelling evidence as to why you should hire this person versus other candidates. So that's how it comes together. And again, I'm going to show you the format on the next slide. And I suggest, once again, go back, Paul, one more. There you go. I suggest starting with putting a sentence in each of these boxes. So start off with an introduction. Hello, I am a, and talk about your work history. Next, followed by work experience. I have done this. In that person's case, I have worked with children of all ages, including special needs children. Then talk about unique skills and characteristics that you have that are going to set you apart from other candidates. And as a job coach, one of the first things I do when I first meet a new PRC client is I tell them, when we meet for the first time, I want you to come with 3 words that uniquely describe you. And don't come back to me with I'm a hard worker or I show up on time or all those things that are, everybody needs to do those or they're not going to keep their job very, very long. I want some unique things about you. I want to really dig into what makes you tick and what makes you such a good candidate. And again, those are keywords. Those are words that are going to describe skills and accomplishments and even personality in this case. And then final sentence you're going to put in here is the big close, which is going to be how you can be of value to the potential employer. And then at the bottom, we're giving you space to take those 4 sentences and again, massage them a little bit so that they hang together and flow together nicely and create your me in 30 seconds statement. Again, these take some time, and your job coach and the resume writers are the perfect people to help you get this in order, but that's how you do a me in 30 seconds statement. All right, well, we're going to move on. So I told you I asked my clients to come up with 3 words that make them unique. And this is just my chance. I'm a marketing person and a bit of a writer, so words are important to me. And there are some words that just sound better than others, that pack more oomph, they pack more power. So I'm going to encourage you to supercharge your words. So instead of in your resume and in your elevator pitch using words like I'm a hard worker, I'm dedicated, use words like, I go the extra mile, I'm resourceful, I'm a leader, I'm motivated, I'm analytical, I'm decisive, I'm collaborative. You can see those words sound so much better. They just sound more powerful. So, you can use a simple thesaurus to find better ways to say things. But just be mindful of the fact that sometimes the words we use are cliche, they are jargon, and they're just plain boring sometimes. So look for better ways to say the same thing. And you'll be surprised at how head turning sometimes just saying something a little bit differently can be. All right. Next slide. So I think we talked about power statements and SR statements and the elevator pitch. I'm going to kind of show you on this slide how to put everything together. So in working, I'm going to go back to the nanny example. In working with this woman, I asked her, come to me in her first meeting with 3 things that make you unique. And we had to work on this a little bit. She came with a couple of words that I thought were kind of boring, but I got the general idea, and I was like, how can we say that a little better? So here were the words that we thought were really important for her. First of all, that she was certified. And that was kind of unique in her profession. Next, she was stable and dependable. And again, those are magic words to a parent hiring a nanny. And then third, she had the unique approach to being a nanny, which to me is kind of compelling. I want to learn more if you've got a unique approach. So I already read you her elevator pitch, but you can see in the bolded words here how we kept stressing those three unique things about her. She's professional. She's certified. She's long-term. She wants to help them raise their family. She likes to work collaboratively. She wants to be indispensable and grow alongside the household. So all those things just really made for a very compelling elevator pitch. And then we took those and we wove them into answers to interview questions. So when she was asked, why are you looking for a new opportunity? The last thing a parent wants is a nanny who's going to work there for 6 months and then take off. They love longevity. They love someone who is stable. So we wanted to really push that point. And her answer was, I've been working with my current family for over 7 years. So automatically, she's not a job hopper. And while I love the children and enjoy the family, the challenges of a long commute and irregular hours have impacted my quality of life. I'm simply looking to regain personal and professional balance. She was honest. This woman was driving from, I think, Wheaton to Barrington every day and back, and was asked to work evenings and overnight. And she said, I just can't do it anymore. And I think employers are much more in tune these days to quality of life decisions, and people being honest about their personal life and how the job impacts it. So this was her answer, and she never had any issues with it, and her position being understood. And then finally, we used the same approach in her closing statement at the end of an interview. So she would say, for example, Ms. Jones, thank you for considering me for this position. I'm not only interested, but I think I'm a great fit. I realize you're considering 3 other candidates for this role. So here's what I want you to remember about me and what makes me uniquely qualified. I'm certified, I'm stable and dependable, and I have a unique approach. And I would welcome an offer from you. So you may look at that, or you may hear that and say, wow, that is pretty bold, and you are absolutely correct. First of all, most people need to hear things 5 or 6 times before it finally kind of sinks in. And so we kept hammering those 3 things that made her unique into, again, answers to questions and the closing statement. We just kept pushing it. So, but by the end, hopefully, the interviewer was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I get it, I understand. And the last thing is asking for the job, letting them know that you would welcome an offer. And that is not too bold. If you don't make that statement, someone else is going to. What you want to have happen is you want the interviewer to go back to their, proverbial desk. And if they've got 3 or 4 resumes sitting in front of them, You don't want to leave any questions out there. You've already told this person, here's what makes me stand out from the other candidates, and I would accept the offer. And those are two huge things. They already know, there's no question. So that you're already making them kind of gravitate toward your resume versus the other one. Don't give too much credit to the interviewer. Sometimes you need to tell them what they need to think. And in this case, I think this person did a great job of it, and she landed a great job with a really nice family. So that's how you put it all together, all the three things we just discussed. So I am going to turn it back over to Paul, I believe, to discuss the interview process.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lori. So once you've sort of prepared your 30-second elevator pitch and you've kind of prepared yourself for the interview, now we're going to talk about getting the interview and what that process is going to look like. So before you're applying for jobs, we always encourage you to research the company thoroughly, research the position. Almost every company has a website, and it's a good best rule of thumb, go on the website, learn who the CEO is, learn what the company does. If the company has a mission statement, learn the mission statement. And most importantly too, and I don't know if we mentioned this already, if you're able to apply for the job through the company website, that's much more ideal than, applying to the job through like Indeed. So once you research the company and you feel that the position that's open is a good fit for you, you can apply for the job, and then you can start preparing for the interview. So when you go on the interview, so we're talking more so the interview where you actually might meet that, say you're going to meet with the interviewer or the hiring manager in person. You want to make sure that you go prepared. So make sure that you bring a pad with a paper and pen. Write some questions down beforehand. So as you're researching the company, make sure that you write down 3 questions you can ask, so you can learn more about the company. It's always good at the end of the interview. There's always going to be that proverbial, what questions do you have for me? You want to make sure that you're prepared for that. So you can even write those on your pad beforehand. Make sure to bring extra copies of your resume. If it is in person, bring at least 5. You never know who they might bring into the interview. If you know that you're interviewing with a hiring manager, sometimes they might bring in a couple other employees, and you might be meeting with 3 people. You never know. You just want to make sure that you come prepared. Also, make sure that you bring your reference list. A lot of times the companies won't ask for your references when you're applying for the job, but if you're a final round candidate, that's usually when they do ask for that list of references. So if that's the case, you want to make sure that you have some copies on hand. If you do have the application, you can go ahead and print it off and make sure that you have a hard copy that you can bring with you as well. It's always good beforehand, also, just to make sure that you study the job description and the job requirements. Maybe even jotting down on that notepad some of the reasons that you're qualified for that position. So when those questions do come up, you can refer back to your notepad if needed. So when we're talking about dressing for success, always make sure that I always say the best rule of thumb is to overdress. So even if you're applying for a job at a nonprofit where maybe the dress code is business casual, that doesn't mean that you need to show up to the interview in business casual clothing. So always make sure that you're wearing neatly pressed clothing, even on Zoom. Even if it is a virtual interview, that doesn't mean that you need to dress casually. You still want to dress as if it were an in-person interview. Make sure that you have neatly combed and styled hair, or in my case, freshly shaved hair. Understand understated makeups. You don't want anything too powerful. You want to make sure it's understated and not the main focus of when you're coming in, having people, if you have some very bold makeup. I'm not an expert on that, so if anybody else wants to chime in. Little to no perfume or cologne, and if you do choose to wear perfume or cologne, just make sure that the scent isn't too overpowering. Clean and trim fingernails, understated jewelry, cleaned and polished shoes. So even with the weather outside, make sure that if you wear boots, make sure you change into your shoes when you get in, so they're not wet or full of snow. Big thing, make sure your phone is on silent. That's a common mistake that's happened to a couple times when I was interviewing candidates. Their phone would go off, or it would vibrate, or it'd have a really kind of annoying ringtone that would be distracting. So just make sure that your phone is silent. And make sure that you don't want to come in, chewing gum or eating a candy bar, or drinking soda. I think sometimes it's okay, if they ask if you want a glass of water, if that helps you, with your nervousness or clears your throat. I think it's okay to ask for a glass of water, but you don't want to come in, with your lunch. This is a kind of a rule of thumb at PRC: early is on time and on time is too late. So, if your interview is at 10 o'clock, make sure you're there by at least 9:45, if not earlier. Make sure that you plan your route ahead of time, especially if you're going somewhere where you've never been before. You want to make sure if you have the ability to kind of go out there, once beforehand, just to kind of check it out, understand the commute time. If it says on Google Maps, the commute to the interview site is 30 minutes, but is that 30 minutes, during rush hour or not during rush hour? So you want to make sure that you prepare ahead of time so you can get there early. Nothing is worse as showing up to an interview late, or showing up right on the dot, and then you're nervous and you're flustered, and that's going to affect your interview performance. So opening and intros, when you finally sit down with the hiring manager and introduce yourself, just rule of thumb, a lot of these are kind of self-explanatory. Be kind and courteous. Make sure that you introduce yourself to everybody that you meet. Make eye contact with them and say, greet the employer with a firm handshake. I guess that's still post-COVID, but I had an interview the other day, and the person did shake my hand. So I think we're kind of getting to that point where most people, are comfortable, with a handshake and eye contact. Be excited about the job. You don't want to come in, appearing nervous or being, quiet. Employers are excited about candidates that come in that are excited and ask a lot of questions. You want to show that you want the job, and I think that's most important. You might be qualified for the job, but they want somebody that wants the job. Be a good listener too. If you're nervous, I think sometimes I know that's something that I do. Sometimes I talk too much, and you always want to make sure that you're being a good listener, that you do half the listening and half the speaking. So a lot of times, the hiring manager might, talk to you more about the position. You want to make sure that, when you're sitting down and you're making the intros, you start that small talk that helps, both parties become comfortable with each other, but you just want to make sure that, check yourself if you feel like you're doing too much talking. Make sure that you check yourself and allow the other party the opportunity to talk and share some experiences as well. Be clear and concise with answers. Don't ramble. Make sure that, I can't think of any interview question that's going to require a 5-minute answer. So make sure your answers are clear and concise, and that's why it's so important. As we've been saying, is to practice your answers beforehand. Nothing is worse than you sit down and the opening question is to tell me about yourself, and you ramble on for 5 minutes about your favorite color and your favorite movie. That's not going to set a good tone for the interview. So you want to make sure that your answers are clear, concise, and if possible, try to keep every answer at around 30 seconds to 1 minute. Be mindful of your nonverbal behavior, especially if it's virtual. If you're easily distracted, that's something to just be conscious of. Make sure that you're making eye contact with the person that's speaking, and even I think another big thing is if you are in a panel group of people, when you're giving the answers, just check yourself and make sure that you're making eye contact with each person as you're speaking. Sometimes depending on the positions of where people are in the room, you might find yourself just looking at the one person that's asking you the question, or the person that's right in front of you. You might need to check yourself throughout the interview and make sure that you're looking at all the different people in the room and making eye contact with them as well. And it's just when we get nervous, sometimes we're not mindful of what our hands are doing or what our eyes are doing. We just want to make sure that you're not, you don't want to come across as nervous. You don't want to be, I know some people have a nervous tick where they are playing with paper, they're playing with their pen. Just make sure you don't have anything in your hand, especially when you're talking. We talked a little bit about this, researching common questions. Either, they're always going to ask you the question at the beginning, tell me about yourself. These are some other common questions. What is your greatest strength? What is your weakness? How have you improved? That's always a good opportunity. I mean, those are common questions, but especially, when it comes to what your weakness is, you always want to follow up with, I understand that this is a weakness of mine or an area that I need to improve, and these are the specific ways that I'm trying to improve that part of me. Why do you want to work for us? That's another common question, and that's why that research is so important. So this gives you the opportunity to showcase the research that you did in the company and why you'd be a good fit. I remember when I was interviewing people, it was always impressive. It's always easy to tell that somebody went on the website beforehand. If they talked about the mission statement or they talked about some of the work that the CEO was doing, that shows that they did their research beforehand, and that's going to show the employer that you actually are very interested in working for them. Why did you leave your last job? And that's a question we talked about earlier. In the case of if it was a layoff, we want you to you should always be honest with the employer, whether you were laid off or whether you were terminated, or I think as Lori said, if it was a quality of life issue, if you have long commute times or the hours aren't flexible, if you're raising a family, there's lots of legitimate good reasons why you might want to leave a position. So you want to make sure that you're prepared to answer that question beforehand so it comes across as natural. Prepare appropriate answers in advance with your job coach. These types of questions, these common interview questions, these are the types of things that you can talk about with your job coach beforehand and even practice with your job coach. Our job coaches, some of them are doing in-person meetings with clients now. Some of our job coaches do virtual consultations with clients, but it's really good practice for you to do these if you can do in person or virtually with your job coach, because then your job coach can also kind of look at those nonverbal cues and help coach you around those as well, whether it's eye contact or if you're fidgeting with your hands. So these types of questions, when you're practicing your interviewing, it's best to do that in person or over a video virtual call with your job coach. Questions to ask you, we talked about that. Come prepared. I said 3 questions, but come prepared with 4 or 5, and maybe ask 2 or 3 of those. There's a good chance that maybe some of the questions you had were answered throughout the interview. You just never want to get to the point where it's the end of the interview and they ask you what questions you have for us, and you said all my questions were answered. That's not a good way to end the interview. So always make sure that you have some questions ready in advance, because that shows that you're interested and you want to know more about the company as well. Questions should be designed to learn more about the future job duties, the culture of the company. So these are a couple different examples of some questions that you could ask the company. I like, one question that's not on here, I like it when people ask about the culture of the organization. So, maybe the job itself, the job duties of the position might be a good fit for you, but you also want to make sure that the culture of the company is something that you feel that you would thrive in. If the culture is, very laid back, it's flexible, management, has an open door policy, or you don't feel like there's not a lot of micromanagers. These are the types of questions that you should be asking, because you want to make sure, just as they're trying to make sure that they're a good fit for you, you're a good fit for them. You want to make sure that that the company is a good fit for you, because even though you might be perfect for the job, if the company's not a good fit for you, you're not gonna enjoy your time there. So, and there's lots of other questions your job coach can help you, even if it's specific to the job that you're interviewing for. Your job coach can help you come up with some different questions as well. So in closing, you always want to make sure that when you're asking questions at the end, you don't want to go over the time allotted for the interview. So if the interview is scheduled to last for an hour and you have 1 or 2 minutes left, you don't want to keep asking questions and going over the interview time. That's not best practice, and it might actually slightly annoy the interviewer if they had something scheduled after. So just make sure that when the ball's in your court and the interview's ending, you want to make sure that you end it on time. Allow the interviewer to end the interview. Ask when a hiring decision will be made. So it's perfectly okay to say, ask what the next steps are, or when they hope to have somebody in that role. You do want to end with expressing your desire for the position with enthusiasm. Many times, employers want to, because, sometimes, and I've had cases where, after interviewing somebody for an hour and talking about the job descriptions, maybe the candidate says, hey, this is not really the job that I was expecting. And, if that's the case, that's fine. But if you are interested, you should end it saying, hey, enjoyed our conversation, really made me, excited about the possibility of working here. I'd certainly welcome an offer if you feel like I'm the right candidate. So you want to make sure that you tell them that. Shake their hand, make eye contact as you're leaving. And if possible, ask for their business cards, because if you aren't setting up the interview with them directly, you want to make sure that you have their contact information so you can send a thank you follow-up afterwards. And if possible, you can leave a copy of your resume with your contact info with the hiring manager or at the front desk on your way out. And after the interview, this is a lot of self-reflection. So, once you're, walking out of the building and you have some time to yourself, ask yourself, hey, how did I do? Is there anything I could have done better? Did I, answer this question correctly? Were my answers too short? Were they too long-winded? Just give yourself an honest assessment about how you do. So you can, if that's not the right position for you, or you don't get offered that role, you can take that as a learning experience so you can do better next time. We talked about sending a thank you email. So you want to do that that same night. Just keep it very brief. Thank you for taking the opportunity to speak with me today about the position. I'm very excited and enthusiastic about the opportunity for working here. And as Lori said kind of before, these are, make sure that they know the 3 reasons why you're qualified for that position and why you stand out from other candidates that they might be interviewing. And we talked about this. If you don't get hired, explore other options if you like the company or the environment. So maybe you interviewed for a nonprofit, you didn't get that particular position, but you really like the idea of doing mission-driven work. You can look for other nonprofits that maybe have a similar mission or do similar work and see if there's a position there. So, again, every job that you don't get is a learning experience. And as long as you stay positive and don't take it personally, it's just another area for you to grow so you can get the next position that you apply for. So be patient, stay positive. There's a lot of open jobs out there, especially now. And so there's lots of opportunities for you to, work for some great companies. There's some common reasons why people, don't get hired after an interview. Talked about this. If you don't ask questions about the job, if you didn't seem enthusiastic, they might assume that you're not and move forward with a candidate that maybe seemed more excited about the role. We talk. I don't think I need to read all of these, but just if you're overly aggressive during the interview, if you're interrupting people, if you seem overly nervous during the interview, that might not give them the confidence that you're going to do well in that position, or maybe you won't, be able to work well with others. Interviews where, like, if you're asking, if they're over the course of the interview, you're asking, what the salary is, what the vacation time. If you're overemphasizing that you really just care about the vacation time and money, and not about the position in general, that might turn an interviewer off to you. Another big thing, if negative attitude about past employers. So you did get laid off, or you want to leave your company, and you say, hey, my manager was a jerk, and my company was terrible to work for. All the employees were terrible people. If that was the way that you talked about your previous job, an employer might not be super excited to bring that kind of attitude to their company. So we talked about this poor personal experience or appearance. If you show up and you're not you're not dressed appropriately for a job interview, if it looks like you just rolled out of bed, that makes the interviewer think that maybe you're not taking this job seriously. Responding vaguely to questions if your answers are too short. We talk a lot about me being long-winded, and but if they ask you a question and you respond in one sentence, or you don't go into the appropriate amount of detail, that might also show that you're unprepared. Or simply, another candidate was better qualified. We talked a lot about, the average job opening can get anywhere from 100 to 150 resumes, and there's a lot of qualified people out there. So maybe there was just a candidate that they felt would be a better fit. So, on the job success, once you get offered the job, you negotiate the salary, you accept the position, and you start working. Here's what employers are going to expect from you. They want a strong work ethic, especially at the beginning. They want you to jump into the role. They want you to be excited. They expect honesty and integrity. So, just like when you were, interviewing for the position, they want you to show the same excitement, honesty, and integrity that you did in the job interview. They want you to have strong communication and interpersonal skills. They want you to be able to work well, with your coworkers and work well in a team. They want you to have some flexibility, especially as you're learning a new job. You might have to, come in early and stay late to learn the position. They want you to have that flexibility to do so. And if there's certain things that that come up, if you have to pick up your child at 6 o'clock every day from daycare, let them know that beforehand. And if it's something where you might be able to be in the office for 6-7 hours, you have to go and pick up your child from daycare, let them know, hey, I have the ability to do some of my work at night. So show that you offer some flexibility and that you'll do what it takes to get the job done. Dependability, they want, and this should go without saying, they want you to show up to work and they want you to show up on time. And that's really hard for a lot of hiring managers. It can be frustrating when you hire an employee and then the second day of work they call in sick, or they come in and a week later they're already asking about taking a week vacation. They want somebody that's going to be dependable, and they want somebody that's going to be coming in and doing their job. And I think enthusiasm and self-confidence, we've talked about this, maintaining that, even after you start the job is really important. Some common reasons for termination. We talked a little bit about this: calling in sick frequently, showing up late for work, breaking rules at work, ignoring company policies, arguing with coworkers. If you're an all-around not good employee, organizations are going to look for ways to get you out the door. So a lot of this too, like legal, lying, stealing, using drugs and alcohol while at work. These are things that are probably going to get you terminated immediately. With some of the other things, you might be put on a performance evaluation plan or a performance improvement plan. They might take some steps to improve those behaviors before they terminate you. But big things that are illegal are subject to immediate termination. So finally, this is the opportunity for, if you have any questions about the presentation, or if there's something that you want more information on, you can reach out to, the Director of Job Assistance, myself. So you should have my contact information when we reached out to schedule this presentation. So at this point, you can reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns about the presentation. If not, there will be a quick form with the link. It'll be a Google form that you can complete after you've listened to this presentation. It's just a quick questionnaire just to get your feedback about what you thought of the presentation and any ways that we can improve the presentation moving forward. Once you complete that form, you'll be able to shoot me an email and let me know that that's complete. And I'll follow up and send you an email with all the different forms that we discussed about today. Really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this presentation, and we hope we have a really good experience with the People's Resource Center.